Hello everyone, DM Gashbad here, and we are back for Round 2, Game 2 of our Warhammer 8th Edition Fantasy Escalation campaign. This one is called the Isle of Valgonda, and like the last battle report, the scenario is Ancient Monuments. In Ancient Monuments, there are a number of mystical monuments on the table, and we get bonus points for the final multiplayer campaign for getting zapped by the Sorcerous Portal in the middle of the table. We are up to 600 points, and once again, my opponent will be the Tomb Kings of Khemri. So really quickly, let's go over my force. I'm using the Empire, of course, and up in the front we have Captain Kurgi. Captain Kurgi is a captain of the Empire. He is equipped with full plate armor and a shield, an upgrade from last time. He, of course, has his Sword of Might, which he picked up as a free magic item in the first round of the campaign. Over to the right, we have our warrior priest, Jerem McCroth. Jerem McCroth has got himself heavy armor and a shield, and is also carrying around the Sword of Battle. Behind them, we have the Ruddy Reavers, 20 swordsmen with full command. Off to the right, we have the Angry Mob, which are 20 free company with no command. Off to the left, we have the West Watch. That is a detachment of 5 handgunners. They go with the Ruddy Reavers. And behind them, we have the Riding Roughshods, which are 5 Inner Circle Knights with no command. Here is my opponent's force. From right to left, we have a Lich Priest who is level 2 with the Ruby Ring of Ruin. He is in a unit of 10 Skeleton Archers with no command. To the left of them, we have a unit of 25 Skeleton Warriors with full command, and for the left, we have a unit of 3 Skeleton Chariots with full command. Not pictured is a Tomb Scorpion, which will of course be underneath the ground, tunneling its way up in the course of the battle. And I almost forgot, in the first round of the campaign, the Lich Priest got himself a Power Stone, so he's carrying around that as his free magic item. So before we get too far into this, I do kind of want to apologize for this particular game. It's a bit of a weird one, you'll see why as we go on. I'm not sure how great of a battle report it's going to be, but I actually really enjoyed the game. It was very tactical. I'm not sure if it's really going to come out in this battle report, but just keep that in mind as you're watching. Anyway, here's the terrain all set up. So we got a series of walls. The Tomb King player got to deploy those, so he doesn't want to bounce over those with his chariots. So he stuck those all the way over on the left-hand side. They're not going to take any part in the battle. Each of us got a mystical monument to deploy. If we painted it up, we get to put it on the battlefield for this game. There's my magic circle off to the left. We also rolled up another one, the Idol of Gork and or Mork. That's down below near my deployment zone. In the very center, we have the Sorcerous Portal. And then off to the right, I believe that's a Wizard's Tower. So that's going to give the Lore Master special rule to any wizard within 6 inches of that. That's over on the right, and right in front of that is another Sorcerous Portal. My opponent is, I don't know, he really wants everything on the tabletop to get blasted with spells. He actually brought a second Sorcerous Portal on the table. So every magic phase, you consult a chart, and it's a list of spells, and it casts that spell at the closest unit. The spells are Soul Blight, Wissen's Wild Form, Plague of Rust, Speed of Light, and Fireball. So they're mostly bad. It's mostly bad spells. However, like I mentioned earlier, if one of your units is the target of the center Sorcerous Portal, then you get a point, and that point can be spent as, just regular points on troops or magic items or whatever on our last multiplayer Triumph and Treachery battle that's going to happen at the very end of this campaign that's going to determine the winner of this Isle of Valgonda escalation campaign. You can see that our forces have mostly decided to set up on the right-hand side of the table through that pass made between the Wizard's Tower and the Sorcerous Portal. So in the back we have my opponent's cavalry, his skeleton chariots anyway. He brought a unit of skeleton horsemen to the first campaign scenario, the first round, the 500-point round, and I kind of thought, boy, those guys seem really bad, but he was confident he was going to find a way to make those guys work. Well, he gave up. He decided that the skeleton horsemen really are bad. They didn't perform very well for him in that first round, and so he's dropped them and he's brought a big unit of skeleton infantry instead. And I think, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Anyway, the skeleton infantry is taking charge of the center of his line, and the archers and Lich Priest are off to the right, and as I mentioned, the Tomb Scorpion is down below. He's facing off against my guys. I went a little bit differently this time. So the swordsmen with my general, with Captain Kurgi, are in the middle, and they are pointed directly at the Sorcerous Portal. Originally, I wanted the Free Company to be taking that job, but since we've got Sorcerous Portals on both ends of my battle line, I guess it doesn't really matter. I'm going to get zapped by them one way or the other. The more expensive knights are in the middle, just watching that whole pass, and the free company are between the knights and the swordsmen. My warrior priest is in with the angry mob, so we've got my crazy zealots leading the crazy rabble of peasants. I believe what I was thinking was I anticipated my opponent would be moving his Lich Priest towards that Wizard's Tower, and I wanted to send a somewhat disposable unit to go get him, and that was the job of my Free Company and Warrior Priest, so I think that's what I had in mind. And so that left another unit of infantry to go stick their face in the Sorcerous Portal in the center of the table. Swordsmen get that job. Hopefully Captain Kurgi can keep them in line with his leadership, and the knights are just there to guard that whole area. So we are on to round 1, and I get the first turn. So I'm going to move up aggressively because I want to get blasted by that Sorcerer's Portal, give myself lots of points. So I move the swordsmen up as far as they can go. I hang the cavalry back a little bit. I do not want them to get charged by either the big skeleton unit or by the chariots. The Free Company advance really fast, and so you may notice that I didn't give myself enough room to maneuver past that big building. That is for a reason. Not perhaps a great reason, but a reason nonetheless. Anyway, they're going to look to actually occupy that Wizard's Tower, so they're not worried about being able to slip past there. The handgunners stay where they are. They're going to take some shots in the shooting phase. In the magic phase, I've got 2 Sorcerous Portals targeting me. They don't do anything particularly impressive. I didn't take notes about every little spell effect that they're going to get, so maybe a unit gets a -1 armor save, maybe they get -1 strength and toughness, maybe they get +1 strength and toughness, or weapon skill or initiative 10. Anyway, they're all minor buffs that don't affect the game in the short run, so I don't note them. So just for now, realize that the 2 Sorcerous Portals don't do anything too destructive to my 2 infantry units, and we'll go on. I do have the Warrior Priest in with the Free Company. He undoubtedly casts some prayers. They again are buffs, so they're not going to come into play this round. So we move on to my opponent's turn. So the Tomb Kings make a slow, cautious advance. The skeletons and the archers both shuffle up their 4 inches. The skeleton chariots hang back with their longer charge range. In the magic phase, the Sorcerous Portals go and throw magical effects onto my 2 infantry units again, nothing too serious. And I believe the Lich Priest is now within range of the Wizard's Tower, which means he gets all the spells of the lore of Nehekara. That said, he doesn't have a tremendously effective magic phase. He puts some kind of modification on the skeleton warriors, so either the 5+ ward or the killing blow or something like that. I apologize, I don't actually remember what. Anyway, I stopped the Ruby Ring of Ruin and any direct damage spells. That brings us to the shooting phase, and the skeleton archers go and open up on my handgunners, and they go and have a really good shooting phase and kill off 4 of those guys. That really hurts, but they do pass their panic test. But that only helps them out for a little bit because the skeleton chariots also have bows and they open up and kill off the last handgunner. Fortunately, my knights and my swordsmen go and pass their panic test, so they're okay. But there goes my shooting for the game. Oh yeah, in my shooting phase, they shot at something, doesn't matter, didn't cause any wounds. So anyway, they're dead now, and so all of the shooting now belongs to my opponent. So it is my turn, and I think I'm going to go get that Lich Priest. So I move my unit, the Free Company and the Warrior Priest, into the Wizard's Tower. So we're going to take control of that, and we're going to, make sure that the Lich Priest doesn't go and claim that himself, although if he did, that would be fantastic. But really what I'm looking for is I'm going to claim that, and then in the round following, I'm going to exit, and then I think that that Lich Priest isn't going to have anywhere to escape to. Anyway, that is the idea. I am going to basically be able to skirt around his battle lines, get that giant Free Company unit, and then what's he going to do? I mean, he can leave the unit and sacrifice the skeleton archers. That's only going to keep him alive for so long. He can go back into the building. I'll be able to recharge it and get him there. So I'm pretty happy about that maneuver at this time. We'll see if I change my mind in later turns. But that's what I do. Meanwhile, I'm actually holding off with the rest of my force. I don't want to charge the skeleton warriors with the knights because I'm confident that I will not destroy them in one go, and then I get flank charged by the skeleton chariots. Likewise, I don't really want to move up with my swordsmen because if I get double charged with both the skeleton warriors and the chariots, I'm almost certainly going to lose that combat and I don't want to run the risk of running away. So even though he has all the shooting, I'm hoping for a breakthrough with the Free Company who are occupying the Wizard's Tower. And also, I'm currently getting the one getting blasted by the Sorcerous Portal, so I'm building up points. So even if we just sort of stay at arm's length for a little bit, even though he has all the shooting and I don't, I might be taking some casualties, but with a 1-up armor save of the Knights and the numbers of both the Free Company and the Swordsmen, I'm not terribly worried about it. And so if I can hold him off and collect points, I'll come out ahead in one fashion or another. And of course, if he advances towards me, then I can do a double charge with both the Knights and the Swordsmen on the Skeleton Warriors, or something along those lines. And so that's my thinking. In the magic phase, the Sorcerous Portals go and do their little magical things. Nothing really serious happens that changes the board state. And the Warrior Priest goes and casts some buffs, and it doesn't matter. Okay, so now my opponent's turn comes around, and he's thinking more or less the exact same thing. He doesn't want to move his Skeleton Warriors and get double charged by both my Knights and my Swordsmen, because that may actually be the end of those Skeleton Warriors. And he doesn't want to advance the Skeleton Chariots, because the Skeleton Chariots can't get charged by either the Knights or the Swordsmen and withstand that charge. So he's got shooting and he's got magic, so he's actually looking at staying back and trying to get either a good shooting phase or a good magic phase, take out some of the Knights, make something panic, that kind of thing. And while I'm looking at a breakthrough on my Free Company, his Tomb Scorpion arrives, so now that is something that he can use to sort of break this stalemate. So the Tomb Scorpion comes out a little off from where my opponent wants it. He comes out right there by the Sorcerous Portal. We do make a rules mistake. My opponent asked me, can this guy move after he comes up? And I should know, really. But at the time, I thought, no, I think he just ends up where he ends up. That's incorrect. He gets a normal movement phase. He just can't do his charge. So he should have gotten a regular move when he popped up from the ground. But my opponent gets this guy killed so often when he tries to burrow up from the ground that I guess that's the reason why I don't remember this guy moving when he tunnels up, because usually he just dies. I don't think it affects very much as far as this goes. But yeah, we're both kind of in this standoff situation, except that the Skeleton Warriors do push forward just a little bit, and here's a more clever thing, and unfortunately you can't really see it. His Lich Priest has left the unit of Skeleton Archers. He is now behind the Wizard's Tower, sort of just a couple of inches between him and the Skeleton Archer unit. He's not worried about my magic, I don't have any shooting magic, or my shooting, because, my handgunners are dead. And there's a very specific reason why he went and did this, and I'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, it was a good move on his part, and I saw this coming a little bit too late. But he saw it and he capitalized it. And again, we'll talk about that very soon. Anyway, his magic is unremarkable. He does buff the skeletons again with either Killing Blow or the 5-up ward save, but his shooting is concentrating on the Knights, and the Knights' armor is doing their job for once, and none of the Knights are dying. He's looking to kill off even a couple of those. That changes the math on some of these double charges and can let him advance more freely, but it's not working out for him so far. So here's the deal. Here are my Free Company hanging out in the Wizard's Tower, and I find out I can't actually leave the Wizard's Tower on that side. So the rule is, and this has been FAQ'd, so it's a little bit different than in the main rule book, so the errata goes over a little bit. I have to be within 1 inch of the building when I exit it. Specifically, the back rank model has to be within 1 inch of the building, and so yeah, and none of my other guys can be closer. I also have to be outside of 1 inch of any enemy unit, or any unit just in general. I also have to be within twice my movement range in inches of the tower. So in this case, I am movement 4. All my guys have to be within 8 inches of the tower. The back rank guy has to be within 1 inch of the tower, and I find I can't actually do it. I can go in a long file, and I can fit between either the edge of the board and the Lich Priest, but then I'm too far out. I'm over 8 inches away from the tower. I can go into some other formations, but then my bank rank guy has to be in the middle of my formation, and he's no longer within 1 inch of the tower. Trust me on this, I try lots of different ways to make these guys fit. I try to put these guys in a situation because if there's any way for me to fit this unit in, they're going to be able to charge that Lich Priest, maybe charge the Skeleton Archers if the Lich Priest finds a way to hop back in there, or let the Archers shield them. But anyway, they'll just sweep through that whole flank, and that's what I'm after, but I just can't do it. The rules won't let me. I can take my Warrior Priest and I can have him leave the unit, but he's almost certainly going to get killed. He has a 4-up armor save, which isn't bad, but he has to survive my opponent's magic phase. And he has all the Nehekaran spells plus the Ruby Ring of Ruin to blast him, and he has to survive any shooting that comes his way, and even that normal unit of skeleton archers has a decent chance of killing him off. And then he still has to come into combat. And really, if the Lich Priest just jumps in the unit of skeleton archers, that protects him a lot. And the Warrior Priest solo charging the skeleton archers, I'm not sure he wins that in time. So yeah, I'm stuck. I'm stuck in this tower. I can leave the tower and set myself up in front of those skeleton warriors, but then the Sorcerous Portals come into play. So I'm going to leave in my movement phase. And then the magic phase is going to come around, and the Sorcerous Portal by the Wizard's Tower is going to zap me with some kind of spell, and I have no idea what that spell is, except that I know it's mostly bad. And then my opponent's turn is going to come around, and he's going to decide whether he wants to charge or not. And then the Sorcerous Portal does its thing again. So before any combat happens, if I leave the Wizard's Tower on the side where my opponent is, on the other side, the side that I can leave at, I'm going to take 2 rounds of this Sorcerous Portal affecting my troops, and I have no idea what either of those 2 things are going to be. My opponent, if he, when it's his turn, he can decide to charge in, he will know what one of those effects are going to be. So it's something positive, he can simply decide not to charge. And if it's negative, he can charge, and I might get, 2 bad spell effects. So I think it's a real bad option for moving those guys in front of those skeleton warriors. If it was just regular skeleton warriors and I didn't have any weird magical effects going, yes, I'd probably take that option. That'd probably be fine. But in this case, I don't like it. And so I'm kind of trapped. I managed to trap myself in this Wizard's Tower, and I can't see a way for me to get out. Anyway, in the magic phase, I do cast my prayers. These guys are really safe in this tower. No one's going to get them out. But the Sorcerous Portal does something, I don't really know what, and we just keep moving on. So it is my opponent's turn, and he is kind of stuck himself, but he has determined he's going to use the Scorpion to try and break the stalemate. So the Scorpion goes and tries to outflank my forces going around the Sorcerous Portal. Otherwise, his guys just stay still. And we come to the magic phase, and the Sorcerous Portal in the center of the table finally decides to do something a bit more exciting. It's going to throw a fireball. Now, both of us have a unit within 1 inch. We're as close to that Sorcerous Portal as we possibly can be, because we want to get the effects and we want to get those bonus points. So the fireball comes out, and it affects both of us. So it blasts 3 of the swordsmen, so 3 swordsmen die, and it blasts the Tomb Scorpion, and it does really well. The Tomb Scorpion is toughness 5, but it still manages to get 2 wounds through, and the Tomb Scorpion only has 3 wounds. So now that guy is hurt. So that was kind of a painful magic phase, or beginning of the magic phase for my opponent. Also in the magic phase, it looks like the Lich Priest does manage to get a Ruby Ring of Ruin off on the Free Company and blow up 2 of those guys, which is not too bad a result considering with the flaming attacks, they get rerolls to wound against those guys. Anyway, the archery is still focused on the knights, and the knights are doing just fine, and we come to the end of another turn. Okay, so it's my turn again, and I think I kind of have to do something a little bit different this round. I don't like this whole impasse that we've got here in the right-hand side of the table. So the swordsmen are going to go in swift reform. We're going to see if we can't hunt down that Tomb Scorpion, or at least not get rear charged by that thing, because it is hurt, and I am a lot more confident that I can just go and kill it. That means that the impasse is a little bit broken in the center of the table. It means I don't have the threat of the double charge to keep those skeleton warriors back. So I'm actually going to move my knights backwards. So they're safe. The swordsmen can't be charged. The Free Company are fine. If anyone wants to charge them, I'm very confident that they'll do just fine by themselves. But we have had to change things up a little bit. And again, the 2 Sorcerous Portals do something. By this point, like, all the armor is gone from various plagues of rust on both the swordsman and the warrior priest. Free Company don't have any armor. But I've been up and down between the soul blights and the wissons and the speed of lights and everything that, These guys are probably going through system shock by having their bodies racked by magic so much. So it is my opponent's turn, and he wisely decides not to send the Tomb Scorpion into the Free Company because he's almost certainly going to lose it, and so it shuffles back the other direction. The Skeleton Warriors have advanced on the Knights a little bit, because why not? But unfortunately, we get to the magic phase, and it is another fireball from the center Sorcerous Portal. The swordsmen actually end up being fine. It is possible that when they were looping around the side, they actually got outside of 1 inch a little bit, and so they were not targeted. But the Tomb Scorpion was there, and the Tomb Scorpion gets blasted and loses its last wound. So, interesting situation. The Tomb Scorpion is gone, the threat to my left flank is gone, and also I am up 85 points. That's not enough to get me a victory. 85 points, if I need to get 100 victory points in order to not get a tie. But I'm real close. It puts a lot more pressure on my opponent. He now has to get over 185 victory points in order to claim victory. The thing is, neither of us really know how we're going to get those points. The most vulnerable thing that I have on my side are those knights, so he is continuing to focus his bow fire on them, and it finally pays off. He does manage to kill off one of the knights, not enough for a panic test, and even so, the knights are only worth about 125 victory points, so we haven't exactly cracked the code on this thing. It is my turn, and the impasse is right back where it started. So as the swordsmen do, they swift reform and move and turn around and move right back where they were, because that's what those swordsmen do. They go forward, they turn around, they go back the other way, they turn around, they go back the other way. That is their job. So after a couple of turns, they have come back into their original position, and we are ready to continue the standoff. My opponent wants a break in this situation as much as I do, but he's still playing it really cautiously. In his movement phase, the skeleton warriors pivot a little bit to face the swordsmen, and the skeleton chariots advance just a touch. In the magic phase, again, the Sorcerous Portals don't do much of any significance, but the Lich Priest goes and miscasts. Now, I was really excited about this because this might be a way where I can pick up a couple nice points if this guy blows himself up. He only manages to do 1 wound to himself, which is halfway there, but not quite. And I don't even know what spell he was trying to cast here, but it doesn't have that much of an effect, so I'm sure he wasn't thrilled with that result. One thing that has been happening is that the Lich Priest has been targeting my Free Company with the Ruby Ring of Ruin. So he's been trying to blast those guys in the building, and I've been shutting it down with dice. And I realized too late that I shouldn't have been. And the reason is that if he killed enough of those guys, the unit would actually become small enough to fit into those spaces so that they could leave that tower and go hunt down that Lich Priest. I would have probably risked some panic tests, but with a leadership 8, I'm okay chances of doing it, and that would have broken this game wide open. So I should have thought of that a little earlier, and I should have let those fireballs go through and kill off a couple of those farmers so I can leave. But I didn't do that. Anyway, it's my turn again, and my guys just hold steady. I'm still satisfied with collecting a lot of the points for having the Sorcerous Portal target my poor swordsman, and yeah, that's how it's been. Just one of those weird games. The Sorcerous Portal in the middle of the table does kick out another fireball and kill off 2 of my swordsmen. Doesn't cause enough for a panic test, so those are casualties that I can easily absorb. And we come to the last round of the game. So this is the bottom of turn 6. The skeleton chariots can't actually make that wheel to charge anything. They're out of range of my knights, but the skeleton warriors, hey, might as well declare a charge on my swordsmen. They're probably not going to die, so they're not going to give up any victory points. And you never know, they could get really lucky and break that unit. But they fail the charge, and so nothing comes of it. In remaining moves, the skeleton chariots do move up close enough to that portal to get within 1 inch, so at least they can claim a victory point by being targeted by it. The Lich Priest goes and casts the extra attack spell on the Tomb King chariots. He's trying to get extra bow shots to try and do something to those knights. I do stop the Ruby Ring of Ruin. I don't need him causing any panic tests at this late stage of the game. I believe the Sorcerous Portal on the right goes and fires a fireball and kills off 2 of my Free Company. They're fine. They still got plenty of farmers to maintain the garrison. And the archery comes in against the knights and just rattles off their armor and doesn't do anything particular. So that was a big, big draw. We were in a big standoff. Neither of us were willing to take the chance with those Sorcerous Portals to move up in front of the charge range of another of our troops and get countercharged. And so we just kind of held off. My opponent was looking for a break with the magic and the shooting, which never came. I tried to go for a sneaky maneuver with that building, and it did not work out. My opponent figured out a way to prevent it, and sure enough he did, and so I managed to trap my own troops and just couldn't think of a way around this situation that would work to my advantage. The Sorcerous Portals just made everything really sketchy as far as accepting a charge. And so, yeah, we just kind of accepted it as it were. Couldn't get the breakthrough or the opportunity that we needed. I thought it was actually well played on my opponent's side. Again, the Tomb Kings are a tricky army to use, and we made little maneuvers, and then the maneuvers got countered, and so it was a big draw. But I did enjoy the game. I'm sorry it might not have been exactly action-packed for those of you who are watching, but it was very tactical, and sometimes games just kind of go like this. We're trying to outthink each other, and it doesn't always happen. That said, I did get a big pile of points for being mostly targeted in the Magic phase by that Sorcerer's Portal, so I'm doing okay. Not the best round for the Empire. We had those 2 nice wins in the first round, but this round was a loss and a draw, so not great, but we're advancing all right. So we're going to move into the next round of the campaign after this. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments, leave them down below, and I will see you on the next one.